out and say, wait, wouldn't Gragas have been better at every point for everything in this game? Was available, could have just been a Gragas, but KT turned on the style. That meant that they meandered a bit. The game took longer than they would have wanted. Now we get to game 2. Are the gloves off, or do we throw in a Heimerdinger? Do we get super crazy? What
the old Heimerdinger jungle.
KT are the one team where sometimes you watch the series and you think, what do they want to achieve here? And I feel like you're never really sure with KT, because sometimes it's style points, sometimes it's innovation. Really is interesting to track, and game 2 will be, I'm sure, a delight in its own right.
Well, we're not going to be seeing any Sejuani, Pop Smithy, unfortunately. Rek'Sai is also going to be banned away. Was overlooked entirely, as Skarner obviously higher priority than Rek'Sai. Makes a lot of sense. Zach going to be banned as well. So 3 junglers so far, and the Caitlyn away from Deft, which is completely understandable.
Now, I know you're being flippant, but if the fans are watching at home, they definitely wanted engage and disengage, so literally Gragas would have been the pick there. Rek'Sai would have been fine, but...
yeah.
The Kog'Maws is going to be banned on Blue's side, so MVP, Maha, a known Kog'Maw player, seems like they don't want to deal with that particular hypercarry. Doesn't take away the hypercarry pool, which has dominated AD carry picks. Feels like Ashe and Varus have gotten a lot less purchase recently, and Caitlyn and Kalista has become, I mean, honestly, these 3 together are kind of the staple red side bans.
Yeah, pretty standard, but it does sort of price KT into a pretty easy Elise pickup and score one of the best Elise players in the world. We'll happily grab that one. Of course, it's interesting saying that because everyone can play Elise, but that's still fine. MVP now with a couple of picks of their own. We'll see whether it is going to be something like the Rakan and the Xayah once again.
I mean, the biggest story here is that I feel like Beyond especially, the gulf between Elise, Rek'Sai, and his next champion is quite large. He can play Gragas, he can play other junglers, but those are his picks. Rek'Sai's kind of always been his pick, and Elise was his best performing champion historically. So denying both those is kind of the biggest story for KT with the Rek'Sai ban and the Elise first pick. So a lot of power available to MVP to be selected, and it's not like the Corki and Xayah really let them down in game 1.
No.
So probably not a reason to look past them in game 2.
Also fantastic if you plan on not being on the winning side of the map, because these two both fight very well if you're jumping on top of them.
I'm really interested
Especially
to see,
Xayah.
do we see something like Thresh LeBlanc in this round? LeBlanc into Corki's no auto win, but at least Thresh LeBlanc is about the most pressure you can put on Corki, and it does fight for the mid-game power spike pretty extensively. Or do you just take a team fight comp and go Orianna in this spot, or Cassiopeia? You're so inclined. There's a lot of different ways you can approach a Corki.
Yeah, what
Could
do you
just
pick?
be, honestly, the Talia into it, right? And just go pretty standard.
I think Talia makes a lot of sense as well. And Pawn certainly had his eye in with the shoves.
LeBlanc was banned in the first series, you'll remember, and it's a champion that I think will increase in priority in Korea, not necessarily into the Corki, so we may not see it in this game. But you look over to, say, for example, NALCS, huge priority on LeBlanc during Rift Rivals and post-Rift Rivals. We've seen it a bit in Korea. It's been succeeding a lot more recently as MVP. They hover an old favorite, Atlas. This is one a big pick for Beyond. He could actually play it, to be clear.
Oh my goodness, imagine how excited Cloud Templar would be.
It was fun watching him the last time he was playing the Amumu, but seems like his once-a-season Amumu has become once-a-year Amumu, so no Amumu.
All right, well, Rakan's going to be picked up, and Max, like you said, had an almost MVP-worthy... Well, it's of course MVP-worthy because he plays for the team, but...
I know, it's awkward.
Yeah, I get very frustrated, but certainly did play well in game number 1. If they had have won, I would have assumed that he would have got an extra 100 points on that screen after we looked at the damage graph.
Well, Kog'Maw banned by KT in the first round. Twitch banned here. Maybe try to deny some of these hyper carries. We've already had, if you consider it, 4 AD carry bans and a Xayah takeaway. So the next round is getting lower and lower when it comes to power. They might just double ban AD here as well.
And the thing is, I think it's sort of silly because Deft's champion pool is at least 8 champions wide. At least.
It does feel like nowadays some of the AD carry pool is pretty outclassed. Feels like a lot of people are staying away from certain champions, that the hyper carries, with how the game is being played post-Rift Rivals, are heavily prioritized. Like you say, Deft will find a pick, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jinx, for example, is a hyper carry that's available that everyone in the world will be hyped to see him jump back on. May even see it in our second series, as Sungyun was the last to play Jinx recently. We'll be playing in Series 2.
Has looked good on it as well, as the Lee Sin's going to be banned away from Beyond, as well as the Gragas. So now with Rek'Sai, Zac, Lee Sin, Gragas, and Elise all off the table.
Amumu still available.
Yeah, this is and Skarner, of course.
That's true.
Sejuani's also banned. There is a lot of junglers not available right now. Italy, another one. That's where Score went last time the jungle pool was pinched. Skarnagame doesn't count as being pinched.
It will be taken, but then you wonder what the last pick will. Will just be a Jace going all in on making things happen. As I saw you get tilted there, Atlas.
No, please no, please no.
Is that your trigger word now?
Yes.
Jhin. I think Tristana is the most likely take, even if it's not necessarily a legacy def champion.
Well, might be just grabbing J4 for Smeb towards the top side of the map. Has certainly had some great performances recently on the champion, as Ashe is another one. I mean, if you want to pick composition, this is certainly the way to do it.
They could have kind of gone any direction, right? They had pick tools, but you never really hemmed into a pick comp when you draft Elise, Thresh, and Talia. You're just kind of stoked that you got those champions, and you can make your draft around this. Now it is a very strong initiation draft onto what is a poke comp from MVP. There's not really a champ to round this out apart from Jace, and then you're ultra all in on the early game. So they're going to go for a pressure draft with Camille. This is basically get a really big lead early game, kind of like the series we saw yesterday, or perish. They have no front line. Camille is not a frontliner. She will be jumping into the front line with damage, trying to delete people, but not a lot of beef behind her. This is a very squishy comp coming through from the side of MVP. Feast of Famine and then some, and it's against Katie Rolster, by far the best early game team in the world.
Absolutely terrifying. And MVP are by far one of the worst early game teams in the world, Papa Smithy. This is exactly what you don't want. And maybe they looked at their last comp, we're like, we only had 2 damage threats. Quickly, we need 2 more.
But how good do you feel if you find a way to win this game against KT? MVP throwing logic on its head. This is the team that has chosen so many off-meta comps. This is the team that had top lane Rengar that was an accident. It was supposed to be a support Rengar. Anything is possible, Atlas.
Yep, that's the kind of accident that you want when it's supposed to be a support Rengar. But at least Ian is back on the Corki. He did look good, especially in the late game. And Maha does have his eye in when it comes to the Xayah, but they weren't able to topple them in game number 1 with a more rounded composition. Now, going a bit balls to the wall with this comp. And you're right. The early game doesn't go right, it will be a problem. But KT's early game composition looks damn good too. It's a worry for MVP. We'll see whether they can do it as we hop onto the Rift. All right, still some pretty loud MVP fans in the audience.
I'm trying to work out which Pokemon is on that sign in the crowd in front of us. In the middle row, you'll see.
Uh-huh.
That's a really weird sign. Maybe we'll get it on screen at some point.
I hope so, because I can't see it at all. And there's no one that's listening right now that can actually help us.
Yes, we're not being useful. That's not the right sign, but the MVP fans... That's a really cool cheerful, actually.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All the players there.
Oh, there's an adorable Deft llama. We need to show that. That I know what it is.
The fans are packed. There's a lot of things being celebrated today. It's Shai's birthday. He'll be playing in the second series.
Were you talking about the Amumu?
No. I know what Amumu looks like, Atlas.
I was going to say, like, are you insane?
We'll get there. We'll get there. There's plenty of crowd shots coming because there's a lot of cheerfuls going on in the crowd.
Oh, we're in the game. Oh, look at this. Just been scanning the crowd for the last minute.
I was watching the game, and there was a deep ward put down from MVP, and not a lot else happened.
They did group up a little bit at the beginning, Papa Smithy, if I remember correctly. But apart from that, nothing happened.
Not really sure what that voice is supposed to...
Come on, man.
Is that what you think play-by-plays sound like?
That's what they're supposed to
sound like. The most
like.
earnest man possible.
Yeah. It's gotta be. The value volley coming in from Deft, as they're just being frustrating. Blue buff will go down, and Beyond gonna lock that one in there. MVP take the long way around, just to keep themselves as safe as possible, and Score gets a free ride, taking down his Raptor camp with most likely the help from Pawn, but we didn't see any threat volleys getting thrown over the side, but it would make some sense.
When it comes to lane pressure, Talia early against Corki, just happy as can be. As Max has taken a lot of free damage from all the leashing at level 1 and the trades.
Yeah, it was a good flay into Empowered Auto there from Mata as well. There's a grand entrance. Nice knock-up as Maha wants to try and find this one. Not level 2 just yet, so no Blade Caller available.
Thought you could get an instant damage trade while Courage of the Colossus was on cooldown from the Thresh, but ended up not trading in supreme fashion by any means. But gotta say, the early lanes for KT and all 3 lanes are pretty comfortable. So you do worry that while they may have drafted a lot of early game, it doesn't necessarily shape up levels 1 to 5 that strong against the side of KT.
Yeah, good stun comes down, but Aegis is up for Smeb, and he keeps himself healthy. ADD still struggling to find a lot of pressure in this lane.
This actual spot for the minion wave's much better for Smeb than you might imagine, because when you're the Jarvan in this lane, you have ranged pushing options and poke also with the Q. While you take minion aggro, he can just dart into the lane brush and come out and drop the aggro. So he can poke, push, and control the Camille better than expected for a melee champion that close to enemy turret. That's why he has pretty significant health lead over ADD.
ADD, no potion available anymore either. 5 CS is the lead, and he's only used 1 charge on that corrupting potion, now ticking down to 2.
And they're thinking about a turret dive. Good defensive ward put down, you'll notice.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he was spotted, but he's definitely spotted now.
Oh. Repel will be available.
Trying to buy time and get beyond top lane. Notice score is level 4 to the level 3 of Beyond, though. It could be the turn.
Yeah, they're looking for the stun. They find the cocoon onto ADD, though, and Score has to flash himself out of the way. Good repel as Smeb gets himself over to the side, but Beyond should be able to find this one. Oh my god, the heal comes in, but First Blood still goes over to MVP, but Pawn's got the double buffs, and ADD is, able to get out with a hook shot. Nicely done. Actually skirts through the little Krugs as well with that one.
Ian not able to react, was trying to push a wave back out. Crucial factor, though, is the double buffs you mentioned is bot lane.
Yeah, Flash Flay coming out from Mata. Not a lot of mana left over, as Deft can't quite get the auto attacks on Maha underneath the turret, as there's just aggression everywhere, Papa Smithy.
Can't complain about that, but I'm sure the complaints will come in from Ian, who won't even be able to take advantage of his bigger auto attacks to try to control the wave against Talia when she has no worries at all. Still has a potion, 2 potions, and the double buffs. Now, use both summoners in the engage. There is a repeat gank option for Beyond, but when you're Nidalee Corki, your ganking mid lane synergy is not great. Bot lane.
Yeah, that's going to be the flash. The Ignite's already down, as well as Mata's going to fall, but Maha's in trouble. Score gets himself over to Beyond, who's trying to dash his way out, but Max just keeping everyone alive. Spear is going to land there, but no aggression onto Deft, but he just cannot get the kills, as Ian has to get himself the heck out of here. Good pressure from KT, continues on the bottom side. And Deft is hungry for this kill.
I mean, this whole game feels like a YouTube highlight of the action, but it's actually just been 5 minutes of action.
Yeah.
Happening across the map. Score repelled in, used the Q in spider form, then Cocoon hit the minion, didn't have flash to be able to get it, so wasn't going to be kill pressure there. I think it's just never stopping.
Yeah, nice avoidance there from ADD, gets himself out of the way. The flag and drag by Smeb, but he's got a couple of long swords as opposed to the rejuve bead that ADD's adding to his arsenal. It's not necessarily what you want.
You cringe a bit when you see a rejuve bead. You also cringe when you notice that Deft doubled and then some the CS of Maha in the bot lane. So while we saw some of the early trades, while the action was happening top, it was actually Maha being zoned from a lot of the minions.
Now Pawn is looking for more. The double terrain composition from KT, demonstrating that you don't even need a Weaver's Wall, and Talia is a fantastic gank option. Just in the Thunderdome, and will be taken down.
We wondered what the learnings would be from Rift Rivals, and certainly Kog'Maw priorities jumped up, but we're also seeing a big return for this man. Prince Jarvan IV is seeing a lot more play. Marin and Smeb always seem to contrive to have the same champion pool, share it at a time, and
yeah,
where Renekton was dominating the top lane, ever since Nara's come in, now Jarvan seems to be the go-to pick. It makes sense given the meta of largely immobile hyper carries, which Xayah joins the ranks of, but can't really argue that the win rate for the Jarvan's a lot higher than it's been since maybe the first week of summer season.
Yeah, exactly, and he was popular. He just wasn't necessarily this successful. And we know that over in China in the LPL, I mean, they play Jarvan all the time. Love this guy, but anyone with an engage option is pretty popular.
Well, we learn from the best, I guess, Atlas.
That's
We've
true.
taken our learnings from the superior Asian League of Legends region.
We bow to our LPL overlords. But thankfully for KT, they have 2 ex-LPL players, which is why they're winning this game, Papa Smithy. So obviously, they are much better. That's how that works, isn't it? That's how logic... It's pretty sound stuff.
I mean, Logic in League of Legends always needs a couple of jumps, otherwise you get very depressed as a Western fan.
Oh, that was cruel.
I mean, if you look at the Twitch chat, it's just EU versus NA in basically every chat.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Riot knows their audience. They know what they want.
The fact that LPL beat LCK, does that mean NA or EU won based on Twitch chat? I don't know. I don't know either. A2D taking a bit of damage here. Score looking for the dive. Pawn's making his way up as well. The Camille will be struggling. Really good use of the ultimate, but still going to die as Pawn just flicks him back in to his threaded volley. Doesn't tank the turret until he's dead, at least. Does take a few extra shots, and we'll have to go back home, but look at this, Ian, just nothing he can do.
And that was all during the duration of one flash, Atlas. He still doesn't have flash up and now has been repeat ganked twice. Top lane is starting to have a similar CS problem that bot lane is happening. And remember the identity we talked about in Champ Select was the early game focus from the side of MVP. Well, the early game has gone down the toilet, and I don't really know if they can have any more focuses.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, can I have the good news first instead of the bad news? Because I just really want that. And the good news is,
dinner's
well,
coming
you're
earlier.
Participating in the LCK MVP. Like, this is great.
You can make your 8 o'clock dinner reservation.
Nah, they're going to want to stay for the second series. It's super hype.
Please stay for the second series, OGN Legion. We need everyone we can get.
All right, Pawn's going to be able to get himself a blue buff and move back and continue dominating. Doesn't necessarily have the creep advantage, as Ian's been able to sit in the lane, but does have 2, 0, and 1 as his scoreline, so will certainly be ahead. Gold lead is nothing to really talk about. It's just the fact that MVP priced themselves into needing pressure and then not really providing any.
Scores put down a ward, so he's spotted to a degree. Smeb is 2 levels above ADD. That's a problem.
Oh, and Pawn just leaves the lane once again.
They're just the biggest jerks.
Oh, takes the cocoon with him. That's how you do it.
It's a present for later.
Yeah, exactly. Save that. That could be worth something. This is the immortal score. Okay, Tower taking a lot of damage towards the top side of the map. Score throwing in some ranged autos, at least pretty handy when it comes to that. One doing a lot of damage now to Beyond. Oh, what the hell was that? Okay, if that flick had have actually gone off, then Beyond was just flat out dead. Gets himself over to the Raptor camp, and at least he's able to use his Smite to be able to get some health back, but okay. Nidalee has farmed well, does have the Runic Echoes, but is still very squishy.
Yeah, not the best lane in the mid lane to gank, and that's allowed Pawn to basically just leave lane whenever he wants. He's not really under any threat from Corki Nidalee as a ganking duo, so other Corki gank opportunities, you know, if you have CC, then he brings a lot of damage, but when it's double damage duos, then it means the Taliyah basically gets a free lane. So compared to most Corki versus Taliyah matchups, Taliyah's definitely having a happier time this time.
Yep. A2D didn't want to go into that lane so much that he just went back to base again.
I'm back to cringing, Atlas, because I noticed the item discrepancy in bot lane. It's a Ninja Tabi against...
No, it's like 2 weapons and a shield versus 2 weapons and a shield. That's item parity right there, Pup Smithy.
He does have more items than Deft in terms of quantity, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It is 5 versus
4.
4.
He's got the cooler Nikes. If he was in primary school, definitely Maha is cooler.
Oh, it's just painful.
Yeah.
He's not Jin, so going for boots first is a very sad time.
Yeah, this is certainly welfare Zaya happening on the bottom side of the map. Goodness me. Merrill Nomcon completed for Pawn, and we've got Ian going towards that Trinity Force. Slowly but surely. Should be there by about 14 minutes, you'd assume.
Bit of an irony also that he's going Infinity Edge Rush against the only guy in the LCK that goes Infinity Edge Rush on every champion.
This is definitely a mana choice. And did Beyond just pounce into the wall?
Maha is famous, if you guys don't watch a lot of MVP games, which for that I can't blame you, he is famous for going Varus Infinity Edge Rush, so he will go Infinity Edge whenever it makes sense, and sometimes when it doesn't.
Right now, it certainly doesn't, because there's no way that he could possibly build it. Although we might just keep the long swords. Just like goes back to base as a cheeky BF sword, and you think you should assume that that's an Essence Reaver, but who knows, Papa Smithy?
I try never to assume Maha's item builds.
The hilarious thing is that Infinity Edge was his last item in the first game. So he's like, well, I either build it first or at the very end. He only ever bookends with an Infinity Edge. confusing.
Dear. Well, KT have the run of the top side, given that Camille is still a level behind, and they would love to kill her again.
Oh god, Weaver's Wall's going to come in. Cocoon's going to miss, but who cares? Ultimatum comes down as well. This turret is very, very low as they're just trying to hold on to the turret aggro onto Smeb. Score picks that one up. Pawn somehow always is the first one to get the aggro. It's now beyond. Can't go through the threaded volley, and despite hitting a pretty damaging spear onto Score, they're able to grab the kill and grab the turret and not lose anything.
But this is the problem. You see the reaction from mid is to roam top, and while ADD did about the best he could, also dropped aggro and dodged a skill shot with the ultimatum, bot lane was getting denied at the same time. So they're losing the top lane skirmish because the faster roam will always be the team with the Talia, and they've lost the control of the top side after the double death happening to ADD in the early game, at the same time losing bot lane. It's just a cascading effect that is great. It's one of those rolling balls that have gained so much moss that there's just problems everywhere for the side of MVP. And that's why the Goldie will just continue to balloon unless Beyond is going to pull off some solo kills as the jungle niddly.
Yeah, you can see Maha's actually got some money now, Papa Smithy. I mean, I was searching for good things to say whilst you were letting us know the state of this game. And while it does sound very depressing, at least Maha does have a chunk of change in his back pocket. He's only 400 gold behind. So, I mean, it's only CS that is the difference, and he's got himself the assist there at the same time. But really, MVP have just been moving slowly, much like MVP does do. And I feel like they need to start building compositions around what they're good at, as opposed to exactly what they're bad at.
And the start, I think, was fine, but when it very quickly became full in on Poke, the Nidalee draft, I think, for Beyond, you have to say that banning away junglers seemed to be super effective because it pigeonholed them into this comp that really lacks identity, that against a better team, it's one of those things where against a better team with this comp, how often do you really win? Like maybe 1 out of 20 games, 2 out of 20 games? Like,
yeah.
It is a very, very unlikely to beat KT Rolster going full early game against KT, who drafted. It's not like they drafted late game, like they had drafted a early to mid game identity themselves. But MVP really only have one window with no front line, and now Jarvan can just ult whoever he wants and they just die.
Well, he's going to see whether he can get some sort of dive. Thankfully, there is a bit of wave clear here in the mid lane. KT are going to be forced to head back and grab themselves possibly a Cloud Drake, eat some honey fruit, just have a great time at the moment in the river. Not necessarily objectives that they're able to gather for themselves, and ADD is able to try and catch back up. Currently 36 CS behind.
He's also behind a Black Cleaver.
Ah. Whoa. I thought it was a potion, Papa Smith. That's not so good. That's one of the most disgusting item leads I've seen in a lane.
Especially when they build the same items, roughly.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is extra embarrassing because
he doesn't even have a budget Black Cleaver, which is the phage.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just got a weird rock and a toy sword. It's not great.
You have to laugh, otherwise you cry.
Yeah, exactly. We laugh to keep from crying.
Double
two
dodge.
People almost able to be hit by that arrow. Almost hits the theoretical Camille on the top side of the map as well, but she was gone. And that tower is going to leave the face of Summoner's Rift for this particular game. And KT now have broken all 3 of the outers. Now able to move that vision line up. Of course, Mata, phenomenal at doing that. Dude buys a heck of a lot of wards.
I feel like there's a story I have to share with the OG.
Go!
So, this game is super over, but the biggest story I want to share is that right now they're filming for Weekly LCK. If you guys don't know, the Weekly LCK used to be the translated Dangun show between ad breaks. Now it's actually a full live show on Saturday night. Sadly not translated into English, so we don't get the hilarious updates anymore. They're filming a crane game thing, which is where it's the scenario where you have those games that you go to where you have a chance to win something from the claw dropping down and capturing something
up. Yep.
The only persons, they're filming it with KT Rolster and MVP players, the only player I saw win was Mata, who predictably plays the hook champions and then lands the hooks. So I'm impressed with him. He got his eyes in real life this time for his League of Legends escapades.
Stunning, and now managed to pick up the Thresh. When they banned it away in game number 1, Papa Smithy, I was pretty sad because we couldn't get that story then, but now extraordinarily appropriate. And KT going to grab another free objective, surprisingly, in this Rift Herald, and Score is going to march it wherever the heck he wants, honestly.
As the observer zooms in, you'll remember that KT Rolster forgot to pick up Rift Herald. last time they played. So they've learned. They are better at picking up Rift Herald now, so TwitchCat can rejoice.
Yep, that's
They
why.
will not make the same mistake twice.
That's why this is so one-sided. KT learnt how to pick up Rift Herald.
I mean, if
Now
that's the
it's
thing
all
that you
over.
learn from the VOD is to remember to pick up Rift Herald, then at least the VOD review's short.
That's true. That's true. They're going to be able to grab the Dragon as well. That is going to be Cloud Drake picked up. And the next is going to be the Infernal. Fantastic stuff. KT be able to move themselves forward, get some more damage on the board, unless MVP can find some sort of miraculous way back into this game. ADD's got a Sheen, so heading towards the Trinity Force item number 2, of course, makes sense for Camille. But Smeb still with a pretty gross lead, building towards Gargoyle's Stoneplate. It's been pretty easy to detect Jarvan builds recently, just because it's just pretty easily the Titanic Hydra into Black Cleaver, into the Gargoyle's Stoneplate. Not necessarily in that order, as now Beyond is getting surrounded, and ADD is dead. That had to be a slam dunk. That felt like, you know, the real. You were talking about arcade games, right? It's like one of those really bad basketball arcade games, but it's for like the children. So that sort of slam dunk was like the adult just reaching over and putting the ball in.
I feel like all you can do about this game as it goes is make declarative statements. Like, we're now making a record of fact. These are the things that happen.
Boom.
Corky died.
Corky definitely died. But how are you supposed to commentate that? Say all of the abilities that happened just then, before he died.
R, Q, E, Q, R, R.
Nice.
So they try in binary. 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1.
Who changes their binds to those? That's really hard to change. Add multiple abilities to different numbers, that's true. Okay, Deft going to continue farming up towards the top side. He's got a static shiv, but probably got a lot of money. Could actually finish something like an Infinity Edge if he wants to. You got a Burning Face onto Pawn, which is really, really fun. Able to take down the really tanky members of MV. Hang on a second. None of them have very much health at all. But honestly, it feels like he doesn't have to worry about which items he builds. Infinity Edge now finished for Deft, like we were just talking about.
Your mind starts to wonder. I start to wonder things like, could KT win a team fight if they didn't ult? No ultimates.
Yeah,
probably.
How do you make this game competitive, Smithy? How do you think? No summoner spells allowed?
I mean, you remake the lobby.
No, from that. Oh, they have to go back and sell their most expensive item.
That's fair. That would put them way behind, actually.
Yeah.
They would lose.
Yeah, I think they would. Okay, maybe their least expensive item that isn't a consumable or boots?
I like that you had to add the extra statements there.
It's like, yes, I sold my control ward, and we're still winning. Marta would be pretty angry at you if you did that, though.
It's a very sad game.
It is a very sad game.
Amusing, but very sad.
8,000 gold the lead at 20 minutes. As MVP struggling to find anything that's positive to do this game. Smeb actually doesn't use any of his buttons apart from Tiamat and wins a trade against ADD. Ma does get out of the way of the What? Okay. That was a pop. An Elise.
Yep.
That's just...
I mean, the Elise does have a 2-level lead and flat penetration, so...
Yeah. Still, I wasn't ready for that. I'm never ready for Elises to do damage.
Well,
MVP are probably looking at score and saying, Beyond, why didn't you do that much damage last game?
Smebs decided to choose the I want a turret dive now build path and not go for Titanic Hydra, just rush the...
yeah, I like it.
Rush the item that lets him ignore turrets for a while in the stone plate.
I thought you were going to say Ohm Wrecker.
No.
That would have been cool. Maybe that's a way that they lose. They all have to now rush Ohm Wrecker.
If they went from this point and had to go Ultimate Bravery, I think they still win.
Oh, I missed that. We should play that later. I haven't played Ultimate Bravery in yonks. If you guys don't know, look it up. Ultimate Bravery is a heck of a lot of fun. Especially if you do it in normal games. As the arrow sails by majestically, Ian has to flash out of the way of the Flag and Dragon. KT will be able to take down this inner turret towards the top side of the map. The whole outer ring done and inner ring done. Inhibitor turrets now available, and ADD was able to take down the outer on the bottom side and continues pushing forward. Beyond not going to be hit by the hook as he pounces out of the way. Def stays top.
Item builds here will also influence the game. Double Leandri's completed, so Baron now becomes a very straightforward objective for KT to turn onto. They've had a control ward on it. No one from MVP is able to really get close and put down vision, otherwise they could die.
Def backing, but Max Walks up, so at least that's going to be stopped. And yeah, I have a feeling that Baron is going to be looked at pretty soon. But thankfully, MVP do have some extra vision that they've been able to move up. Mata often able to make sure that they have enough pressure here, but it was Max just getting in after Mata had gone back to base to get a few more of those wards back in the inventory. QSS done for Deft here as well. Doesn't have very much extra damage to augment the build, but I mean, he's still way ahead of Maha.
And the problem comes that they have a lot of control wards in the inventory, 6 at the moment. You place them down, and then a squishy person walks up and gets exploded. There's like both flat and percentage penetration now from Pawn. Everyone on MVP's side is squishy.
Yeah.
Max is doing his best to get a righteous glory, but still going to be squishy in the grand scheme of things. And they just get picked and die. There's so few options for MVP. They can't really run the map. They don't have the damage items to be competitive in a 5v5. And honestly, initiation is Hextech Ultimatum or just a suicide charge from Max. So not a lot of good options for MVP.
The put your face in it is sort of the only option. And Def decided that he's happily going to put his face into a spear from max range from beyond and still wasn't worried about any pressure. When you've got Pawn with a 3-item power spike against a Corki that hasn't even got his 2-item power spike of an extra Zeal item, so you know things are very, very wrong. Arrow, once again, not going to find the mark. Good reactions there from MVP, but good vision initially. Yeah,
KT starting to play with their food. Don't need to be taking this particular line. They could start the Baron and peel off. I think the teleport play starting, though.
That is a all right.
You know you take a lot of damage when you die in the CC duration of just a cocoon.
That was half the CC duration of a cocoon. I'm not even sure that that hook even landed.
I don't think so. I think it was dead.
Yeah. Oh, what would have been really cool is if the hook had have then hit the guy behind him. Didn't happen. Baron is going to be the next option.
Look at the control ward line they have. They have a control ward line at 24 minutes of every brush on the way to the first camp in their own jungle.
And there's nowhere that they could even use a blast cone to get over. Oh my god. Free Infernal Drake, though, for MVP. The advantages that they're going to gain of multiplicative scaling of their damage stats is going to be incredible. Oh, really good blast cone there as Smeb wants to get himself in. Cataclysm lands. There's the hook from Mata as he throws out the Dark Passage to no one in particular. It's going to be the Corki falling down. And Pawn grabs that kill against his opposite number in the mid lane.
Weird to talk about a disgusting ward line, but that's what we had.
Yeah.
At 24 minutes when the Baron was started. MVP unfortunately finds out that 8% more of nothing is still nothing. So the Infernal Drake not going to be relevant in this particular game. Def pimps out his shoes. He's got ninja targets now.
Oh, nice. There he is. He's not going to get picked on in the schoolyard anymore. He's got the same Nikes as Maha. All good. All good. Okay, needlessly large rod there completed by Smeb. Titanic Hydra now done. So Smeb has that trifecta he does like to have. All right, there's the shove back. ADD gets a little bit of Primal Surge help. As that's not going to kill, because that's Leandro's Torment. ADD is going to be able to wander himself home. But the message has been received, and that is that Pawn does way too much damage.
Okay, I was going to ask for a translation of the message. Thank you for providing that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That's my high-level analysis.
It's just weird. KT
just following ADD back to base.
KT just won't pick comps like this sometimes. They'll just try out the Cog one. I think when it comes to options for a best of 5, like I mentioned in Game 1, that part is valid. But they're the best team in the world at doing what we see in this game. They're so good at snowballing advantages early, and sure, they can mismanage them from occasion. But more often than not, you have games like this where they look worlds apart from their enemy, as Smeb might die anyway.
He might. Flags and drags his way out, as there's a Cataclysm trying to do some work. Oh my god! Almost survived, actually, is Deft with the Baron buff. Able to get some work done under this turret. Mild work. I say work, but I don't know. That's sort of like an internship. He wasn't paid much for that.
Unpaid internship.
Yeah.
Feels bad, man.
Yeah, it feels so bad, man.
Can't always teleport back in. It spawns in 30 seconds.
Arrow is going to land onto Max, unfortunately. Grand exits the fight, and that is going to mean the last of that inhibitor turret. No inhibitor going to go down, as it is a little bit of 4v5, but ADD still going to be pushing on the bottom side of the map. Powered Recall's coming in for KT as Def just moves himself over just to keep adding pressure on the top side. Mata and Pawn are a long way away.
Teleport's coming up in 10 seconds now, Atlas. That's why they won't stand out. They still have Weaver's Wall.
Yeah, it's going to come in. Maha actually caught himself behind, but does do a lot of damage. That's the inhibitor going down. KT will just back away.
So because they had the teleport coming up soon, they still had the Weaver's Wall to separate. Happy enough to stand up. They take the first inhibitor of the game back. Finish up their item builds, and KT can do whatever they want. No way to force fake hype into this game. There isn't any hype. Nope.
No. Well, I mean,
no.
You just got to get hyped about other things, Papa Smithy.
What should I get hyped about, Atlas?
Get hyped about the possibility of Def turning that Zeal into something other than a rapid fire cannon.
What would you consider?
Whoa, it might be a fan dancer. Imagine it.
Whoa, I'm hyped.
Whoa, so hyped.
You can tell from my voice how hyped I am.
You are so hyped, Papa Smithy. I can't believe it, because that's honestly pretty mundane.
I haven't had mundane on the broadcast in a while. That got me hyped. Good job.
Yeah, nailed it. There we are. We can talk about other words. Sesquipedalian. That's one of my favorites.
It's a word, I guess.
What's your favorite word? No, it is a word. It's a word that means the love of long words. It's fantastic.
I have to think about what my favorite word is. I forget now. There's some words that just sound amazing that I'm a big fan of, but...
Like inevitable?
It's a good word.
Oh, it feels good. Spanakopita?
Excuse me.
Spanakopita.
You keep that to yourself.
It's a pastry. All right, there's Cataclysm. Maha does throw out the ultimate, gets himself out of the way with the flash, but that's no buttons left to keep himself safe. Good cocoon. Lands onto Max. Arrow there as well, and that's the pick that they needed to continue this pressure. Inhibitor falls, second one of the game for KT, and they're not done yet. Minion wave moving towards this mid lane inhibitor turret. Deft is still just clearing minions. In goes ADD. The ultimatum goes down as Smeb just trying to keep himself alive. Stoneplate does exactly that, as now Deft has the consistent damage. Flash right in there. He's going to die immediately, though. That was a little bit overly excited. As in goes Pawn. Shoves them all back. So much damage. He's still alive. As ADD jumps forward. The flash. Unfortunate use.
Pawn.
Oh, my God.
Sometimes Pawn is a god, Atlas.
Exactly. The threaded volley went in the wrong direction. Other than that was stunning. Oh, my God. Now KT should be able to just finish this one off. Max, of course, it's so early in this game that he's respawned again. Picks up Pawn, who almost got MVP until he just fed his life away underneath the turret here. Max is just being ignored by KT. Another day in the office for these guys as it's looking like the 2-0 over MVP. I want to apologize for the fact that we weren't really talking about much throughout the entire game, but that was because of the KT dominance that they were able to put out. That's an open Nexus that they're not
But the
hitting.
respawns are coming, Atlas. Too early in the game.
Oh, no.
No need for apologies. We're talking about the real
premature
thing.
Nexus explosion conversation, Papa Smithy. I'm so sorry.
Talk to your doctor about that. We talked about all the important things this game. They were all in the first 8 minutes.
Apparently mine
Atlas.
is so severe that I just can't do anything about it.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
We tried applying ointment to the burnt area.
No. I'm not about that. Not an ointment guy. The word's too weird. Could I say lotion instead?
No.
Okay.
Only ointments.
Okay.
On this stream.
For some reason, it sounds like it's like an alchemy term.
It does.
Ointment. You know, I feel like I'm back in the 1300s or something. Oh, put some ointment on that. Oh, God. Okay. ADD continuing to try and keep this game alive. Ian doing the same. Has the package. And that is an Infernal Drake for basically no reason from KT. As remember, they still do have Maha with a fair bit of damage. He's now got 3 items.
What's the point of this state?
I don't know. Stop it.
We have the OGN Legion, the most informed of regions. We may have lost Rift Rivals. We still have the best fans. They know that there's no chance that MVP comes back in this game, Atlas. You can't convince them.
But what if they did? This is like the what if he makes the first jump? No one makes the first jump. No one survives that either, as Maha just explodes. Ultimatum comes in, but that's not the ultimatum you want. This is the partner giving out the ultimatum when the partner definitely wants to break up, okay? Like, this is exactly what KT wanted. That ultimatum, not so great, as now Smeb is playing with his food. The Nexus should fall down now, as hopefully my condition doesn't come back once again. Deft is here. He's got auto attacks, and there's a fountain still down. Okay, Deft, be careful. KT will be able to do it now, though. 32 minutes into the game, and MVP are flattened by KT. The warpath certainly on once again, and no 3-game series this time.
Not this time, but a domination from KT Rolster, blowing away MVP in the early game. Another draft with these Nidalees that really makes very little sense. Went for the Camille last pick when they had no front line. Could have just gone for Jason, rolled all in on Poke, but Went for the Camille split push. Camille ganked 3 times. Was never going to do anything in the game. And KT, after being run a bit in the first game, where MVP made it competitive, kind of in spite of what the game could have been, blow away their opposition this time and jump up the ladder as well, as they're able to now run Samsung very close. They are now also 10-3, but Samsung Galaxy will play tomorrow and have the chance to move to 11-2.
Yep, Longzhu also up there at the same time, so KT still a little bit rough when it comes to the top of those standings, but getting a win over the bottom place team is something that's absolutely necessary, and the 2-0 is starting to become way more necessary as well, because we've seen the teams can drop games to these bottom 3 teams. BBQ was able to take one off Afrika yesterday, and now KT, dominant victory, so keeping themselves up towards that top spot.
And I think we have to start redefining who the bottom teams are, because we had that catchment of 4.
Yeah.
And then we had a catchment of 3 when Rox has started to win. And Rox come into their next series 4-1. So you don't want to group them with the likes of MVP. BBQ, with the changes in the meta, have looked a lot better. Will pick up games and match wins. So it does feel like only MVP and also Ever8 represent these teams that you can pencil the victories in. I don't really feel like they have a way back into it. MVP picked up a single game win since Rift Rivals, but no match wins. Second draft didn't do them any favors, and KT going to be happy to dispatch them pretty quickly. There's still going to be about a 40-minute break or a 45-minute break when we get to it, so pretty quick timing from KT all in all as they continue to go forward. They have their match against Samsung coming up next week on Tuesday.
Yeah. But going back to the series, I mean, we saw Skarner, that was exciting. Second game, utter domination. The man on your screen playing extraordinarily well. Smeb picking up the J4 once again. The Rumble looked stunning. And look at that. Pawn was ridiculous this game.
His Talia is fast moving to ridiculous tier, Atlas, becoming almost a must ban. And when you're on the red side and you have to ban Caitlyn, Zac, Kalista, it feels, on patch 7.13, which we all have for at least this week, you start having to give up Talia's, Elise. Other picks start to becoming raining down for KT, and they've already shown that if they get Rumble and Talia, you almost give them the victory because of how strong that can be in the early game. He may have been robbed in game 1, but he will not be denied in game 2 as Pawn will win MVP.
9-2-5 as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's nobody else that even really came close, as Def doing his flash forward to try and kill everyone, and then Pawn cleaning up that fight for him. Smeb would have liked it just so that he could equal his ex-teammate in Kuro, but
and the nice thing about Pawn this season, after his struggles in especially regular season of spring season, is that he got the double buffs and then everyone knew about it. He kept snowballing his lead, he got ahead of his lane, he roamed super well. This is when he had Weaver's Wall available, but he just walked top, and remember, they kept killing ADD. Before his flash came up, they kept returning there. This was where ADD did literally everything he could to live.
Yeah.
But was inevitably going to die, and then by the end of the game, he was on point. Mata also got his Thresh, and KT had these trademark picks, and then sometimes they throw all caution to the wind. They'll draft Skarner, they'll go for the crazy. But when they go back to the staples, this is the result.
Mata with that flash over the wall into instant hook onto exactly the target that he wanted. It's already inside the Cataclysm.
He was playing the in real life claw game.
So good. Another seismic shot from Pawn in exactly the right spot, and that was when ADD walked that entire way back, which was basically enough time to, you know, have been a death timer. Is Ian? He's going to explode.
Yeah, by this point, KT could tank turrets, they could do whatever they want. This was the battle Pawn who decided to come in and fight.
Oh, man.
Threaded volley, doing a lot of damage. The E as well, flashing away there, and even though he didn't hit the fade-away threaded volley, the auto attacks, and the rest were enough, and well-deserved MVP from Paul.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're exactly right. He was also robbed in game number 1, which was fantastic, as we are going to have our MVP interview, so let's throw it over to Joel for some translation.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Joel with your interview translations, and KT, 2-0 victory for these guys. And we're here with today's MVPs. I'm glad I called the second one correct because he got it on this one. He got it on this game 2, but we have Smeb and Pawn for the interview. Smeb, we've seen you a lot more often these days. Seems like you styled your hair pretty properly today.
The real
actually, I
questions.
didn't do anything to my hair today.
네.
Pawn, you got another win. How do you feel?
만족스러워요.
I'm very happy with how I won the game today. And it seems like we got a few smiles on the camera for you, and you seem really happy about it. Yeah, it's actually, I have gotten the MVP in the early stages of the season, but I haven't been getting it recently, so I'm glad to get it now. I don't know if you guys are asking me who the other MVP candidate was. Yeah, but I think with the following the first place right now, I'm just taking it one step by step, and hopefully I'll become first place above that guy that I don't know who it is right now. We want to move right on to the game, and game one was already an interesting thing with Skarner actually making an appearance for the first time in forever. What was that about? I think the recent change in meta is that not the really assassination junglers, but more of the supporting junglers are making back into the scene, and Skarner really is a prime example of that, so that's why he tried it out. And we felt like Score would have been very in disagreement with the champions like Skarner. Yeah, I think with Skarner, he just needs a little more support, and once he does get the ultimate in, so that's kind of what he tells us once he's about to make a play. So I think that's just a good teamwork allowed the Skarner to be informed today. And Smeb, you picked up an MVP 4 times with just the Rumble, and that champion just seems to be synonymous with you in so many ways. Yeah, many people actually consider Nar to be the counter of Rumble back in the day, but you know, with the recent meta, the changes that it has seen, we can now see that Rumble is actually stronger in many of the other cases. And coming back to the game one, we thought that it would be a really easy game for you guys to close out, but somehow you guys had some difficulties near the end. And how did you view the game overall? Yeah, we also thought that it would end pretty easily, but I think we had some crucial deaths in the end and did a little bit of throwing, so that's kind of the things that we didn't like. But I felt like it didn't end as cleanly as we would have liked. And a lot of people do say that the latter part of games that KT play aren't the most impressive, and just that closing out has been the most disappointing thing for you guys. Yeah, I think we are very aware of the fact that our late game is a little bit weaker than our earlier games. And I think those things take a little more time to fix, and we're just trying to take it one step at a time and trying to be patient with this, because I feel like we will eventually get to that point where we're happy about our performance in the late game. We have a video highlight of one of these plays that we're about to show you. Can you explain a little bit about the situation? Yeah, I was trying to go in with the ultimate and try to open up a fight, but everyone was pretty much deleted by then, so I didn't have much to do at this point. So that's kind of the good team fighting by our teammates that allowed us to win the game eventually. And moving on from game one, we want to move on to game two. And Smeb, you went with the undefeated Jarvan on your part. And right now it is currently undefeated still. And it's a recent uprise in the meta right now, but how do you rate that champion right now? Yeah, it seems like Jarvan was pretty much dead in the LCK until very recently, but I felt like Jarvan always had a potential, and with the right buffs that it came to it, just became a little more viable for the LCK. And Pawn, you faced off against this Corki in so many instances, and you did so well today, handling it especially well in game two. Actually, the matchup between Talia and Corki is that Talia will push much faster, and that just gives you a lot more advantages to roam around. And it seems like ADD was very annoyed by the fact that he roamed around so freely to the top lane. And weren't you pretty happy that you got the easy roams?
다음부 근데 기억은 잘 안 나서.
I don't really remember specific situation, but I think I was pretty satisfied. And with the Lion advantages, we have to mention the bot lane, who did especially a good job of holding the lane. And it seems like Deft had a lot of champions banned against it, but he somehow came up with a champion that still worked for him.
아니요, 저희는 이제 바텀 쪽에 힘을 주려고 하지 않았었거든요.
Yeah, we were actually trying not to focus too much on bot lane because we thought that they could hold their own in the matchup, and so we really didn't even think about them the matchup. We didn't actually look at them during the game, and we just kind of thought that yeah, they'll probably do all right. So,
그 점이 아마 저희의
but I think the trust that we have in the bot lane naturally gives us a lot of advantages in the other lanes.
뭐 걔는 너무 많이 당하다 보니까 니달리 정글을 꺼내 들었는데 그러면 라이너들 입장에선 니달리 정글에 대해서
And with all the bans that you guys put on the enemy jungle, they went with Nidalee. Weren't you guys afraid that would bite back in the laning phase?
하나도
Yeah, I think something like a Nidalee would never even fear us one bit.
저희 정글이 앨리스여서
And the fact that we had a Elise in our jungle, that just took away all the worries of potential plays that Nidalee could have made. So we weren't really afraid of the Nidalee at any point.
전장을 누비고 다닙니다. 예, 그 장면을 보면서 이야기 나눠보면
We want to talk about some of the highlights that we've seen from Pawn. He's really all over the place. Yeah, I saw this play happening. As soon as I saw it, I try to make it up as fast as I can.
장면이 아니라고 하면 너무 많아서
We want to show all the highlights, but there's only so much we can show. There's too much that we have to choose from. Yeah, I think this was just kind of pretty ramble by our teammates right here. Yeah, Xayah didn't have the ult there, so that was the only opportunity that we wanted to make a play like this. This was the only chance to do it, so while the Xayah's ult was down, we wanted to just go ramble on this one.
그러니까 두 분이 또 보면서 좀 뿌듯해하시던데
And it seems like after the play, you guys were looking at each other very satisfied at each other.
많이 안 나오거든요.
Yeah, these kind of plays don't happen very often. These are very rare clips that you guys are seeing here, so being able to pull this off, it always feels good. So
그래서 어떻게 생각하시나요?
we want to thank Pawn that did a really good job there. Yeah, I think I agree with that comment. It's a very rare thing to see in LCK.
Oh, the backhanded compliments from Smith.
I don't know if Pawn is trying to see what he's trying to say when talking about Smith, but
제가 좀 강한 편이죠.
I think yeah, with my teammates, I think I have the little bit of speaking rights. So
예, 마타 선수
Pawn is a little bit more careful, and also with my teammates when they were try to say something about me.
동빈이 형이 제일 위고 그다음
Yeah, but I actually like to argue against that. I think Mata and Score is the highest of that tier, and Smep Cup's way below that. So speaking rights is not what he has.
알겠습니다. 어쨌든 오늘 깔끔하게 또 2대0 승리를 가져.
But a clean win does go to KT Roaster, and you guys are very on the near the top of the table right now. But would you like to say anything to your fans right now?
이렇게 좀 연승 이어나가고 있는데 오늘 또
I feel like we're on a consistent run and having a lot of good win consistencies that we're going, but so we're really happy with that.
계기를 빌어서
And we want to take this moment and really just extend that as furthest as we can. And we will just work as hard as we currently are so we can get a good result near the end of the season. And that seems to be the end of the interview. And back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Joel. Fantastic to hear about the KT hierarchy and the fact that Smev now understands what it actually is.
And you can see that Smith thinks he's a big voice and the rest of the team maybe disagrees.
Yeah.
I wonder if that friction could go wrong. How could it ever turn bad, Atlas?
Oh, it's definitely not happened in the past, Bubba Smithy. So it must be absolutely fine. As yes, KT were able to most certainly roster all over MVP.
I know it says 32 minutes. That was about 9 minutes. And
Yeah.
then 23 minutes of just waiting for them to end the game. And KT...
I think it was about 23 minutes of talking about ointment.
The hype thing, though, is KT win 2-0. They moved to 10 wins. Hype, hype, hype.
Yep.
Yet Longzhu, with any victory, goes above them. The spots here in the gauntlet. Remember, guys, it's a gauntlet system. 4th and 5th play each other in a best of 3, and then it's a best of 5 versus the winner from there on out. The spot you finish in is so important. The gulf between finishing 1st and 3rd is skipping 2 best of 5s. So the battle for 1st with SKT no longer in the driver's seat could go anywhere.
Yeah, and Longzhu actually have a couple of games to play as well, so excited to see exactly what is going to happen. But coming up next will be approximately 40 minutes that the stream is going to go live again, with the game happening in approximately 50 minutes. It will be Rox Tigers taking on Ever 8 winners. And we'll see whether Rox has increase that form. They've changed up the roster a little bit over the side of Ever 8 winners. Excited to see what Keen's going to be able to bring. But the Rocks Tigers need to shore up their play if they want to stay in sort of the middle of the pack that they're aiming for.
And I've got nothing to say because we've got no time, Atlas.
Absolutely no time at all, but ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have that 40-minute break. We'll be back with Rocks versus Ever 8.